Blog Talk Radio.
The motherfucking saga continues.
Yo, what's up, world? It's badass thuggin' like I usually do, and you better turn it up, bust some speakers out, cause we off the motherfucking cuff. You dig how we do it? Dog Pound Gangsters 2000 and beyond. Blah.
What's up with it, y'all? Man, don't change that down. This your player partner, the legendary Cocaine. And you tuned in live to Off the Cuff Radio. Better not touch that down. Wigglin'.
Yeah, this is Cassidy, the hustler. And right now, you listening to the Guillotine. Show them the respect they deserve, man. Off the Cut Radio, man. Y'all already know how they doing it, man. I need y'all to stay tuned. They've been doing it for years, so show them the respect they deserve. And you heard it out of bars, mouth. Easy.
Keep it moving like this. Yo, this your boy Rampage. You're not rocking with the best. With Off the Cuff Radio. Classic. History. Fix your face to all you haters. We off the cuff, baby.
What's up, everybody? This your girl, Bonnie Dollars, the Queen of Trap, representing Crenshaw, and you are now tuned in with Off the Cuff Radio. What's up? What's up, y'all? This is Miss Irresistible, giving a shout-out to the livest show on Friday nights, Off the Cuff Radio, and I'm live from the 704. Make sure y'all tune in for the blazing hot music.
What it ain't, what it do. It's Chili Chill from that original Lynch Mob. And Off the Cuff Radio, always where it's at on Friday nights. West, y'all.
All right. We are episode 640, live and direct, Off the Cuff Radio. I'm your host, King Eric, the Media Assassin. And this show is sponsored by Screwball Radio, Da Vinci Clothing, Cocaine Buddy Boy Entertainment. I got my host T-Max with the crack single line. What's good, man?
What's going on, y'all? Our first show on Blog Talk 2025, and we still live. OTC, the freshest frequency in the building. Shout out to DJ Sincere 30 Basement Radio as well up in New York, and we are ready to get it. And to really set it off on Blog Talk Radio, tonight's guest is an unbelievable architect of awesome audio. This man is one of the modern day Picassos, Beethovens, Mozarts, and Da Vinci's of this art form and culture that we call hip hop. This man has produced modern day classics to Jeezy, Rick Ross, French Montana, Isaiah Rashad, and that's just a short list of some of his stupendous, superb, and outstanding contributions to this ever-expanding, diverse, and endless fabric of fresh in the game. He has a story that is wide, that is diverse, that is ranging, that is full of all types of anecdotes, adventures, and putting faith in action. And he is here with us to tell his story in his own words. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest beatsmiths in this modern day of hip-hop, the one, the only, Black Metaphor. What's going on, man?
What's going on, man? What's going on? Appreciate it. Hey, that was a great intro. That was an amazing intro, man. I appreciate it.
Man,
y'all can hear me good?
We can hear you great.
Yes, sir.
We can hear you great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Man, it's been a long time coming, Metaphor, but we finally got you on. This is a pleasure. This is an honor. This is a privilege.
I appreciate it. I appreciate y'all for having me, man. You know what I mean? I've been looking forward to this for a minute. You know, my schedule's been kind of crazy these past, especially last year's schedule, super hectic. So, yeah, I mean, I'm glad we was finally able to, you know.
That's good. We staying busy out here, man.
Look, booked and busy, which means big bucks.
Sure.
That's a good thing.
For sure. I don't post a lot, but I'm always working.
Man, look, we see the lives and we see your posts up, man. You know, so we follow each other on our IG, man. So we see all the stuff that you be doing. Metaphor, your history if this was a championship run that you've had, then you've done it like the Lakers and the Bulls, with a dash of the Golden State Warriors as well. You've been a sonic architect. 3 of the most memorable songs in hip hop history, including Ali Bomaye by Game and Jeezy's Get Right. And of course, you can't forget the work that you did on Ross's, Rather You Than Me album.
Yeah, that artist.
I mean, dude.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, for one, you always got to thank God. It's a blessing, to have these opportunities and to have the gift, to really be able to do this on a daily basis. You know what I mean? Like actually producing for me is like the easy part, right. But like how the actual songs come into fruition, that'd be above me a lot of times.
One thing about it, and we have to come back to it, because if there is one song that people instantly recognize you for, is Game's Ali Bomaye. Of course, the joint that he did off of the Jesus Piece album with 2 Chainz released back in 2012. And to really break down the sonics behind that in terms of the tones and the melody, it is hauntingly beautiful. It is absolutely flawless in execution. And for a lot of times being a producer in the game, if they say if you're lucky, you're getting work. If you're truly blessed, you have songs that people remember, and to achieve immortality, they become your hallmark, your calling card by which everybody calls you for. There's certain points where they want that same sound, but part of a producer, especially one of your caliber and stature, diversification of sound is essential, because it shows your range and it shows the way that you are able to cater to different artists' tastes. During your time in the game, what have you found in terms of how your art has developed from the beginning? Because we want the whole story from where you started. We got a couple hours, or how to basically for you to tell it. Let's get it. Let's get the novel written.
No doubt.
Yeah. All right, for sure. So, man, really, this journey started before I really knew it ever started.
Okay.
So I didn't find out. I didn't start making beats until like the second half of my senior year in high school. So like I was 17, when I started making beats. But before that, like a lot of the foundation was being laid, and I didn't know. I wasn't aware of it. But so when I was 2 years old, one of my uncles was in a marching band at Alabama A&M in '91. And so my grandma, we always used to go to some of his games and watch the halftime shows, but they always used to record it on VHS. So like anytime we go to my grandma's house, I always watch them tapes. So I just sit there and just watch him playing these drums. So that was like the first thing I was influenced by. So then, just growing up loving music, seeing him play the drums. So now when I'm hearing songs on the radio, I'm thinking about like what the drummer looked like on the beats. And then I remember the song that My Boo, they had a drummer in the video. I remember seeing that when I was like 5. So I was like, oh. So every time I heard a song, I started banging the drum beats on the car door and all that. And so when I was 7, my mom put me in drum lessons. My dad was in the Army, so we was moving around a lot. So I did drum lessons for a little while. Then we ended up moving to Atlanta when I was in 3rd grade. And so I was going to school in East Point. And I saw that they had band in elementary school for 5th graders. But by the time I got to 5th grade, we moved to the South Side. So then they only had band in middle school. So like I grew up playing sports. I used to play baseball when I was younger. Then when I got to middle school, high school, I was hooping, playing AAU basketball. I'm tall and shit like that. So that was, that was like my dream early. And I just joined band when I got to middle school, just because I always wanted to just play music. I never really thought about, taking it serious. I just thought it would be fun to play music. And so fast forward from when I joined band in middle school, like I was in band all the way middle school through high school, first chair, tuba, all of this, right? And I'm also hooping. And so, around the time I got to high school, you remember like LimeWire and all that was out.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And we're laughing because we know about live wire back in the day.
Exactly. So I got another uncle, my youngest uncle, Keenan. He live out in Seattle right now, but he like my big brother. We like 8 years apart. It's like the same age gap as me and my sister. And so and he hooped too. So he used to come to Atlanta for the summers, and we'll go to the gym every day. All of this. And so I remember one summer he came home playing the Beanie Siegel, "What's Your Life Like," with the French horns in it.
Yeah,
and that was like that was the first time I ever heard a beat that like sampled like an orchestra. I was like, yo, what the fuck? That's crazy. Like somebody was just playing French horn in my class today. Like that's crazy. It's French horn in this beat. Cause growing up in Atlanta, we listen to like T.I., Pastor Troy, Jeezy, Bone Crusher, all of that. So my first time hearing Beanie Siegel, and that was the summer of 04. So I want to say Gangsta and the Gentleman came out that year. Diplomatic Immunity came out that year. It was just a crazy year for me to get put on to that. And that really made me fall in love with beats to where I started downloading instrumentals and shit. And so I probably was listening to instrumentals for maybe 2 years, just listening. Never had a desire to make a beat. I was just, in band and then just listening to beats. Like I love beats. And so this same uncle, I was hurt one year, and my uncle was at the house, and I had my little sister was taking piano lessons. Cause my little sister used to play the harp. She done took piano lessons, like she done did her musical things. But the Black album had came out, and I learned how to play Moment of Clarity on her piano. And my uncle, so my uncle was at the crib, and he was like, yo, they got programs you can make beats on the computer. And so I was like, oh shit, for real? And so that kind of like, sparked my whole interest in it just to begin with. But even then, like, I just wanted to do it just to be good at it. Like, I wanted to be able to make beats that were just as good as or better than the shit that I like. You know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to put my beats on these same instrumental mixtapes. Like, at that time, I wanted to design race cars. Like, I'm in the aerodynamics and all of that, so my dream was to design race cars. But once I started making beats, I don't know, it kind of took over. Like, I remember the first time I lost track of time and didn't sleep. You know what I mean? My mom busted in the room one morning. It was like 6:30. She was like, what you doing up? And I was like, I was making a beat. Like, I didn't know what time it was. I was just, like, I completely lost track of time. And so then that happened again. So fast forward to the end of senior year, I'm about to graduate. So now, the whole family coming to town, all of that. So my uncle, he come back to town because he had just told me, like, yo, you can make beats on the computer. He come back. Now I got like 40 beats. He lit. I'm like, oh, shit, we lit. So we just up all night before graduation. I made like 5 beats that night. Went to graduation. Fell asleep at graduation. Then, like after graduation, like I'm a real family-oriented person. You know what I mean? My family always been close growing up. So, we have the family graduation party after the graduation. And so one of our friends of the family, they ended up marrying into the family, R.I.P., Pastor Golden. He was a pastor, and he pulled me aside while we was at the graduation party, and he kind of prophesied on me and told me that God had gave me a gift that was going to bring me much success as long as I keep him first. And he said my parents wasn't going to agree with it at first, and he kind of went into a lot of specifics that, like, made me feel like the only thing he could be talking about is music. You know what I mean? So, because I was going to school for mechanical engineering, you know what I mean? Like, I'm supposed to try to walk on for the basketball team. You know what I mean? All of that. That was the plan. So, I couldn't really see anything else that nobody would agree with. So, I don't know. I always kind of kept that in the back of my head and just, what's going on, living my life, daily, just meeting people, interacting. You know how life is. And so when I got to college, I ended up being surrounded with all music friends. Like, everything I did was, like, really music related. So my second year of school, I wanted to go to school back in Atlanta. I went to Georgia Southern my first year in 2007. So I wanted to come back to Atlanta so I could be around, like, the beat battle scene, go to all these showcases. I was doing producer swap meet, back then with Big Kai and Fort Knox. You know what I mean? Those guys. And so my second year, I had a whole plan. I had found me a little apartment. I was gonna go to another school in the Atlanta area, and I was waiting for the school to accept me. And so it was getting closer and closer to the day when we was supposed to start school, and they never sent me my acceptance letter. So I'm like, damn. And like my mom's wasn't about to have me not going to school, so I had to go back. I had to go back down to Georgia Southern, which is like 3.5 hours away from Atlanta. I had to get a last minute like off campus apartment and all of this. So I was kind of upset, but I mean it's life. I was just gonna do what I had to do. You know what I mean? And so what ended up happening was my neighbor upstairs at that apartment used to like complain about my music being loud, but she liked my music, so she just got my number and was cool, and she just text me like when she wanted me to turn my music down. So fast forward. The second semester of that year, me and my homies used to go buy albums when they came out. And I remember we bought Gang, L.E.A.G.U.E, and then I remember when Rick Ross' Deeper Than Rap came out. And like I heard that Deeper Than Rap album, and I was like, yo, these beats, like, come on, Maybach Music, like Magnificent, all of those, like that whole little run right there. And I was reading the credits, and it just, a whole Justice League run just right down the middle of that shit. I'm like, who the fuck is Justice League? I'm like, this is crazy. So I go home, I get on YouTube, I look up every Justice League video they had. You know what I mean? I seen it. Kenny, Rook, and Coleon. I watched them in the studio with Jeezy. I watched them in the studio with, various artists. I think they had a video with Gucci. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. But that next morning, I woke up to a text from my neighbor upstairs, and she was like, hey, do you want to intern for Justice League? And then I was like, that was like the first moment where I was like, oh shit, like that's crazy, because I just found out who these dudes was yesterday. I hadn't talked to her in like 4 months. And so just to wake up to that text was like the first sign that I really got that was like, yeah, you really supposed to be doing this, and this is like the beginning of this journey. So I ended up getting that internship with Justice League from 2008 to 2010. So that was like right in their prime. We worked on the Maybach Music 3, like the album that stuff was on. I was there for all of that. So that kind of like showed me the lifestyle of a producer and just what it's like to move in the industry as a producer and what it really takes to be at that high of a level.
Now,
so,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead. It's a great conversation.
No. You good, because we're loving the content. Now, Metaphor, you're from Atlanta, born and raised. Mm-hmm. So you are.
Well, I was born in Alabama. I was born in
Montgomery, Alabama, but you come of age in Alabama, in Atlanta. So you are coming along at a time. In terms of this is what is unique about your story, because not only are you coming of age in Atlanta, you're already coming up in a place where you have before you, TLC and LaFace Records, Monica, all of them have already, Baby, all this, that first iteration with Dallas Austin, Jermaine Dupri, Babyface, L.A.G.U.E, what they did in that first run. We're not even getting to the sports part because you play baseball, so we're not even talking about the Braves and what Deion Sanders was doing during that time. So now your musical ear is beginning to mature from nascent to professional with one of the greatest runs we've ever seen a section have with Gucci, Jeezy. I mean, this is incredible to watch. And you're in the middle of all of this, watching all of this unfold. And of course, it's the Southern Hemisphere, so even though it's not in Georgia, you're watching Rick Ross come along in all of this. What was that like to watch all of this develop?
It was like, just as a fan of music, it felt like it was a time like when New York was really popping, and then like the game kind of fell off for a second. You know what I mean? You could feel like the South really like keeping this shit afloat with more than just snap music. Because you know at that time you had like D4L and Soulja Boy and all of them came out. So like,
right.
At the same time where people kind of wanted to maybe talk a little smack about the South doing snap music, like you still had, you know, Jeezy, Walls, Gucci, Yo Gotti, like all of these guys was really making like hard shit, like hip hop shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and
it was very influential. Like I remember when Trap or Die first came out. Like I was I think I was in high school. That shit changed everything. Like that, when Trap or Die came out, it changed everything. Like you know, you got your homies that you hang out with in the neighborhood every week. You know, every day or whatever. Like you go to the garage, we chilling around bikes or whatever. Like man, when Trap or Die came out, that shit was everywhere. It was in everybody's garage. Like it was everywhere, bro. Like that really changed.
Shout out to Jeezy and CTE,
man.
Good friends of ours, man. I mean, Jeezy, of course, his first mixtape was Streets Is Watching with DJ Drama.
Yeah.
But nigga, that Trap or Die fucking just blew the doors off the hinges. Like, good Lord.
Yeah, for me, it was the beats. Like I'm sure you could tell because I was in band, so I'm not like a snobby music person. But I'm used to the feeling of music. So like when a beat be kind of simple, it just don't really grab me. So like when Jeezy, like when Trap or Die come out, you know what I mean, it come on with the horns, big orchestras. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like definitely, like that was a time that was definitely shaped, you know, where I really went. I feel like I merged a lot of my northern influences with what was going on at the South during the time.
To have the musical education you did, metaphor, in terms of understanding, of course, being in band, you're understanding composition, you're understanding structure, timing, precision. You're learning all aspects of it that come to the cacophony, you know, the sounds that ultimately, I mean, of course, it's no coincidence that, you know, shout out to Nick Cannon, you know, when he was in Drumline. You know, which is also loosely based on Dallas Austin's life story. So you're getting this and understanding. What are you learning about music in the process of creation that would ultimately give you that help in terms of being a beat creator? Like, what did you learn in band in terms of organizational procedure, structure that, you know, as you started getting into beats, how that would ultimately add on to the formula?
So, all right, I'm glad you asked that because my whole career, I would have always said it didn't really help at all until like last year. I really just was doing some reflecting, and I'm like, you know, a lot of people say my music bring out, you know, certain emotions or like you could really feel it, and I'm like, oh, that's what it is. That's how band influenced me, was because like my attachment to the feeling of music, like as a whole. So like, you know, you got different sections, like in a piece that you playing in band, you know, it's like a song, but it's just instruments. So like, you know, the instruments create the dynamic that'll carry you through the whole piece. And I feel like I've always approached my beats like that, and that's probably the biggest way that it really helped me. Other than like with time and being used to playing notes on time, being, you know, counting bars or just keeping time, like my general rhythm being good, because I like to play my patterns. I don't really draw notes in. I've always used like, you know, like an MPD or like, you know, keyboards. I always rather play my ideas. So, I mean, that's probably the biggest way it really influenced me, is just that feeling of the music. Like really being able to really understand what it's saying.
And finding your sound, because, you know, usually what producers do, they find their signature sound. Like, what were some albums that you studied that were very influential sonically?
Albums I studied that's influential sonically, definitely, you know what I mean? Of course, like the Blueprint changed the whole game. Like I feel like I remember the first time I heard that, like, as a youngin', man, I was riding one of my uncles in the car, and it's just like, that album brought a different feeling to hip-hop, you know what I mean? Shout out to Bink, you know what I mean? Shout out to Kanye, all those guys and shit like that, man. But, like, Ninth Wonder was one of my, big influences, too. Like, I used to listen to a lot of Lil Brother. And then Wiz Khalifa, when I first heard Cushion Orange Juice, that was when, so after my internship with Justice League, I ended up going to Middle Tennessee State up in Tennessee. That's how I met Isaiah Rashad. They was like the first people I met when I got there. Like, I'm an introvert. So anytime when I used to go to school, I always get on like a Facebook group first and like meet some people so that I had somebody, you know what I mean, to talk to or like meet up with and just kind of go from there. So I met one of my guys, Ricky Blue, on Facebook, and then he introduced me to Kevin Adams, which is Tut. And then I met Isaiah through him and the whole house crew. And so, that was I feel like once you get outside of Georgia, the type of music that people listen to really open up. Like here in Georgia, especially in Atlanta, like it's a lot of just, South, like a lot of trap, a lot of that. But when I went to school up there, that was the first time I heard Wiz. That was the first time I ever heard Currency or like Kendrick. You know what I mean? People was listening to all of that. And so, man, when Cushion Orange Juice came out, that was my first time hearing sample beats that sounded like chill like that. You know what I mean? That really like, it's just a different type of feeling. You know what I mean? From like, the upbeat, orchestra-driven Dipset beats versus like, you know what I mean? Like the 808 heavy South Jeezy joints. Then when I heard Wiz, I was like, oh, this is like a whole nother thing. So I feel like those are my top really like influences as far as albums and artists.
And you got to think about it with Wiz. If I'm not mistaken, Cardo was doing a lot of that stuff with Wiz starting out.
Cardo and Sledging.
Yeah, man.
Crazy, man. Taylor Gang. Them was the days. That's all we used to listen to was Wiz, Currency, and Kendrick.
Man, shout out to Monster Beats on Currency stuff. Oh my God! I mean, Monster Beats is just amazing.
Yeah, man.
So when you're getting into this, the internship with Justice League. So tell us about that in terms of how that would eventually help you as well in terms of giving you the guidance and the pathway.
Oh shit, yeah. So man, my guy Rook, man, Kenny, man, they taught me a lot of hard lessons. So Rook always used to say I had a big ego and shit. I never really thought that, but looking back on it, I could see. Cause like I see some of my old Facebook posts and I'd be like, damn, I was crazy. I used to talk a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? I used to talk a lot of shit. So I'm like, yeah, I could see that, but I didn't really mean it. So he always felt like I needed to be more humble or whatever. But like, for me, what I really took from the most from that internship was things that they didn't necessarily tell me or teach me. Like, I'm a very good observer and a very good listener. So, like, being in the studio with them when they was going through beats for artists or just when they was at the crib making beats. Because I used to cut hair, too. So Rook always used to have me come to their house, like, a couple times a week just to cut his hair. Then I'll just be around helping out. So I used to go to their house, like, 3-4 days a week. And, like, what I learned the most was the work ethic. Like, they was always working. No matter what time I went over there, what day it was, somebody was in there working. And then, man, when it came to mixes, like, the mixes, the quality of their beats, like, every time, that consistency, the impact, like, a lot of producers, when you start making beats, a lot of your beats be like, average or, maybe C+, B. Like, Justice League, they really had hundreds of classics that never came out. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, damn, if I want to be successful, I'm going to have to at least be there consistently, or I can't guarantee my success. So, like, man. I mean, that was really it. Just, like, the work ethic and just, like, the consistency and the care about the actual sonics. Like, that's what's going to create the longevity or the separation. Whether other people know it or not, like, that's what makes my product different. You know what I mean? It's the time and the detail that I'm putting into it, and like the ear that I'm blessed with. Because music is a taste thing. You know what I mean? So part of it is your taste, and then just learning how to execute that.
I mean, this is, you're telling us all this, and we're just sitting here listening in terms of, you know, how you're just, you're just detailing all the situations that brought you to where you are. I mean, you're just casually speaking on how you get the internship with Justice League, and of course, you just happen to run into Isaiah Rashad, who ends up becoming one of the greatest artists of this generation.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's God, man. Hey, that's what I'm telling you. Like, I can't take credit for all of that. You know, like,
right.
Like I say, my neighbor knew Kels, who was, you know, working with Justice League at the time. Like, it's so many things that are out of my hands. Like, I didn't want to go to school in Tennessee. Like, Tennessee is a place I never wanted to go because growing up, I always saw they had a lot of tornadoes and shit. So, like, after my internship, I was like, all right, I want to go to Art Institute in Atlanta. You know what I mean? Once again, I want to be in Atlanta. But, like, that's not how it worked out. My dad kept telling me about this school in Tennessee. He's like, man, you might want to check this school out. And I'm like, man, I ain't trying to go to Tennessee. Then probably after, like, the third time he told me, I finally went on their website. I looked at the school. I'm like, oh, this school look all right. We could take a visit. So we drove up there. When we drove up there, I knew I was going because, like, I love mountains and I like driving. So, like, that scenery and that trip from Atlanta up to Murfreesboro is, like, you know, one of the most beautiful trips you could take in the U.S. And then, like, the actual campus of the school was nice. You know, the layout, the environment was just cool. So I'm like, okay, I could do this. So I ended up going. You know what I mean? That's how it played out. Like, I'm introverted. So when I got to Tennessee, like, I knew that I wasn't really focusing on socializing for real. Like, I was going to meet, you know, whoever I met, and that was going to be my crew, but I wasn't focused on, you know, going out to all the events or really being any type of involved with what was going on at the school. Like, I was just going to class and then coming home straight to my beat machine, because at that point, I saw Justice League, you know what I mean? I saw the lifestyle of producer, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So that's what I did. And, you know, like, I can't really explain why I met the people that I met or how it worked out. Like, I was in school in Tennessee for 2 years before I actually, like, became, you know, before I made it in the game. So, like, I went up there in 2010, was up there 2 years, just, you know, And every summer, I would come home to Atlanta, because I wanted to be in Atlanta, right? You know what I mean? Like, anytime I wanted to come to Atlanta, this shit never worked out. Every summer I used to come home, and it was the summer of 2012, and me, and then a couple of the other homies, Isaiah, my boy Free P, my boy Ricky Blue, my boy Cody, we all stayed in Murfreesboro instead of, you know, going to our hometowns that summer. And so that I had just met my boy Cliff, and he introduced me to a producer named D. Sanders. And so that ended up just being our whole little clique that summer. So, like, every day I wake up, make some beats. I used to listen to Meek Mill Dream Chasers every day at that time. That was, like, my motivation when I got up in the morning. I put Dream Chasers on. Then I was using Logic at the time. You know what I mean? Turn that on, work on something. Then I'll go to Dad's crib, work on something. Then we'll go to the other homie crib and Isaiah recording. And so, long story short, like, me and Isaiah both, like, got on that same summer. Like, I remember I got an opportunity to play beats for Jeezy that summer. I had worked with an artist named Skrilla, who was signed to CTE. And I had 2 tracks on his demonstration tape. And so, you know, Jeezy team heard, you know, what the beats I had on there, and they had Jim reach out to me, and it was like, yo, send Jeezy some beats. Like, we heard the joints you got on Skrilla shit. He working on the album. We want to hear some shit for that. So I sent like 5 beats. And they was like, yo, we need you to come to the studio tomorrow. So I'm like, shit. damn, I'm in Tennessee, you know, college student shit. Middle of the summer, broke, we eating noodles.
Right.
I'm like, damn, I gotta get gas money to come back down to Atlanta. But ended up making it happen. My boy Cliff shot me the gas, you know what I mean? Shout out to him. He shot me the gas to come down here. Went to the studio with Jeezy. He picked 9 beats. That day. I had just so happened to make the Beautiful beat the day before that session. So that was like one of the first ones I played. He went crazy. He played that beat back probably like 30 times. Like, he went crazy, man. He passed on the Ali Bomaye beat. I had that, and I had the Sanctuary beat too. He passed on that. But like, he
which
picked
would
like
become for Game in French Montana.
Exactly. So after he picked those beats, he was like, yo, I want you to come back next week to do something on the spot. So like, I'm like, okay, cool. And then in my mind, all the YouTube videos that I watched the Justice League like hit my brain, because him, like Justice League and Don Cannon, I used to watch all of their videos, and they always said everything they did with Jeezy, they did on the spot. So I was like, okay, he must really fuck with me then, because he want me to come do something on the spot. Like, I feel like Justice League or Don Cannon right now. So boom, go back to Tennessee, come back the next week, pull up to the studio. He had Tony Ray engineering at the time. R.I.P. Tony Ray, man. He just passed away recently. But,
Rest in peace.
Yeah. So I pull up to the studio. I see Tony Ray. He pull up in the parking lot, get out the car. He like, what's up, man? He's like, bro, Jeezy got a classic to one of your joints. I'm like, for real? He's like, yeah, I'm going to play it for you when we get in here. And he was like, oh, we got Ryan Leslie coming through today to play keys on some of your beats. I was like, what? That's what the fuck I said, bro. I'm like, bro, I'm in school in Tennessee. Like, so that first time that I came down here to play beats, like the week before that, my apartment had got broke into. So, yeah. When I went back up there, you know what I mean, my spot was trashed. They took my TV. They took my PlayStation. I had all my music stuff on me, but they took everything else except my studio speaker. So when I got back, I took that as a sign to just lock in and just make beats every day. I don't have nothing else but my speakers. So when I ended up coming back that next week, man, I got in the studio and he played Beautiful. So Jeezy went out to L.A. over that weekend for the BET Awards, and he recorded Beautiful with Game. And so then he was like, yo, Game liked that beat so much, he wants you to send him some shit. He about to start working on the album. So Tony Ray and Jeezy just like plugged my hard drive up and put 40 beats in a folder and just sent it. They didn't even listen to them. They just put 40 beats in there and just sent it to Game. And so the Scare Now and the Ali Bomaye ended up being the first 2 joints that he recorded for that album. So, then, so that same session, Ryan Leslie pulled up, and we made like 3 beats, one of which ended up being A Win Is a Win. That's Ryan Leslie playing keys on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is where, as we say in the hood, shit gets real in a good way. Because how was it in terms of things were moving at that time for you, in terms of just the process?
I mean, I was still, college, noodles. We was smoking mid back then, all of that good shit. But I was still any of that. Like, I was just creatively, I was at the best point I had ever been at. Like, I feel like I had really got my mixes better. I was watching Mercado's place a lot, learning how to mix better. So, I felt great. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like I was on the verge of whatever I was supposed to be accomplishing, because I always had that prophecy in the back of my mind. So I never really had any doubts that I would end up, some type of way getting where I'm trying to go. So once that happened, I was just like, okay, this is the start of it. And then I ended up doing a deal with Night Riders from that. So that's how I got with Night Riders, because they was working on Jeezy album too. And so they heard my joints and reached out. And then I was like, I don't know. But, Keno was pressing me. He was like, man, look, bro, we working on Meek shit. We working on all of this. He's like, we can get you on this shit tomorrow. So I'm like, all right, cool. I did the deal. He got me on Meek album the next day. I was the last song that he recorded for the Dreams and Nightmares album.
Oh man!
The day before he had to turn the album, man, the In God We Trust joint. And then so Jeezy had Beautiful, and then like I said, man, Ryan Leslie made the Win Is a Win beat in the studio with Jeezy, and he didn't pick it. Like he didn't pick that beat until like a whole year later. But yeah, hold on. I let me just go ahead and tell that story now.
Go ahead.
So the night before that session, like me as a producer, you know, I like to be prepared. When I never really made nothing on the spot or artist before, so I'm like, let me prepare. Let me go get a bunch of samples together that I feel like are hard, and just wait to make them tomorrow. And so I was just scouring the internet, looking for samples, going through records and all of that, and I came across this one track that J Dilla used, right? And so I didn't really know much about Dilla when I first started. You know what I mean? It wasn't until 2013 when I really did my research on Dilla. But this particular
one of the
Dilla
greatest
beat,
ever. Yeah.
Definitely go. This particular Dilla beat, I just remember hearing it and being like, man, this joint cool, but I feel like I could do this sample better. You know what I mean? Like I was coming from I ain't gonna lie, I was coming from an arrogant place with it. Not disrespectful, but just in my young head, I was 22. You know, I don't know no better. And so I did the beat the next day with Ryan Leslie. It was hard. We did 2 different versions with like different chord progressions. Ryan Leslie loved it. Everybody in the studio loved it except Jeezy. So you know how we leave the studio. I keep sending beats periodically. He keep asking me for beats. I feel like the day after that session, I made the Get Right beat. I made the Get Right beat at home, and I ended up sending it to him. And that was like my first record with him to come out. But the other records didn't come out till 2 years later, right? And so what happened with the Win Is a Win beat is I sent him that beat probably like 8 times, and he always said no to it. And so it was a day that I was at my apartment, and I heard J Dilla come up again. And so I'm like, all right, let me go sit down. Same way I did with Justice League. Let me go sit down and really do my research and figure out like who J Dilla is. And so I spent the whole day going through YouTube, the internet, listening to the, credit list and all of that. And I'm like, yo, he been my favorite producer this whole time, and I ain't know it. That's crazy. And so literally it was one last documentary I watched on YouTube, the Shining documentary, right? So 10 minutes after this documentary go off, I get a text from a number that I don't have saved, and it was Don Cannon. Don Cannon texted me out the blue like a year after I made this beat in the studio with Jeezy. He texted me and was like, yo, Jeezy just rapped on the Dilla joint. We need the stems. And I'm like, bro, what the fuck? I'm like, that's crazy. I sent him this beat 8 times, and he never rapped on it until the day that I sat down, you know what I mean, and really paid my respect to Dilla. So I'm like, it's definitely like higher powers at work with a lot of this shit sometimes. At least in my situation.
Man, now this is all happening. What are you learning in all this time? Because this is a business first metaphor. What are you learning in terms of the publishing, making sure that everything is taken care of, and compensation in terms of what you were being paid for the work that you did?
Okay, so what I learned, a lot of producers. So I learned I did some hard headed shit, right? Mm-hmm. So when I got offered the deal from Night Riders, I had hit up my guy. I had hit up Justice League old managers to ask him what he think about it. And so on the contract originally, he was like, "Oh nah, bro, that's way too low for your advances. That's crazy." So I was like, "All right, cool." I negotiated the advances higher, and he was just like, "Yo, be careful." So I'm like, "Cool, be careful." So the deal that I did was for 3 years, right? Mm-hmm. So the way I look at it is, if I only got 3 years in the game, then I don't really want to do this shit. You know what I mean? So I got paid for everything I did. You know what I mean? I got all my publishing and all of that. But I also learned about, you know, the business of being signed. You know what I mean? Like when you sign to somebody, you know, if you're going to get X fee, they might sell your tracks for whatever fee. You know what I mean? But the way I look at it, right, like I'm just starting off. Like a lot of people have to, you know, quote unquote pay their dues. The most value, like what I gained from that deal is more valuable than the money that I would have made or that I feel like I missed. Like, because we actually, you know, got work done and I actually, you know, built relationships with people and people really rock with me because I'm genuine. So I was able to continue my work, you know what I mean, with a lot of artists and still had these opportunities. But I also had a lawyer that was, you know, helping educate me at the same time while all of this was going on, as far as like, you know, making sure everything registered, publishing, all of that got to show up properly. Like I never had to eat a sample. There's never been a song that I didn't get publishing on because of sample. Like you don't, like if a sample takes 60%, like you don't have to like just give up your publishing, like split the rest with the artist. You just got to, you know, fight for that sometimes. Like having a lawyer is very important.
Yeah. And that's something that a lot of times, you know, metaphor, a lot of artists, because when we're hearing this story, and it's absolutely fabulous, and very fact-based, because when you're looking at the time that you were coming in, this is kind of in between the internet era, the blog era, as we call it.
It was before
streaming. So you're coming in a very organic fashion. You know, videos are kind of being put out there in the early 2010s, but it's still not in the place where you're seeing this proliferation of production in terms of really you're seeing, what is it? I believe Instagram doesn't start, I believe, until 2013. So so this is still, you know, Facebook.
No, it might have been like 2011. It might have been 2011.
So Instagram. We could still say that Instagram was still a baby at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
So you know, nobody. So the most we're seeing is on YouTube, artists putting out music. We're still not seeing, you know, clips of course, TikTok isn't around yet. Facebook is still the thing. So you're coming into the time with all of this where you literally still have to get clicked up with the right people and still kind of navigate your way through all of this.
Everything's content-based.
Yeah, like King said, everything is content-based. Now, you said in 2010, Metaphor, that you started this in earnest, and within 2 years, you're on major I mean, the jump you make in 2 years is not just a step, nigga. This is a seismic movement shift, nigga. You literally. I came in the game. My first 5 records dropped in 2 months. I had the Jeezy, Get Right, the Meek Mill and God We Trust, then Sanctuary, and then the 2 joints on the Jesus piece, the Scared Now and the Ali Bomaye. That was my first, 5 or 6 records, and they all came out from October to December. So that was a crazy introduction to the game, but I also feel like the actual product, like the beats, drew people in. You know what I mean? Like the beats made more people reach out, because it's like a lot of people get placements. Like it'd be a lot of producers on these albums, but it'd be certain joints that really stand out, and those are always the type of beats that I wanted to make. Or like, that's what I really saw Justice League do. And, I understand, the feeling of music, how to, certain parts of music that make you feel things that you might not realize. Like maybe that's what, like them shits dropped and they was heat, bro. And, you know what I mean? Like ever since then, I've just been consistent with my work ethic, you know what I mean? And my own standards that I hold for myself. Like,
Plus what I envision with the Ali Bomaye joint is, it sounds like something that it could be played on movie trailers. You know what I mean? That's what I kind of like get that vision for.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that actually Ali Bomaye, it was on the trailer for the Two Gun with Denzel. It wasn't in the actual movie, but it was on the trailer.
Man, so I mean, you have something cinematic.
And of course it's on Grand Theft Auto and shit too.
Dude, them royalty checks are
video game royalties is something, bro. And people don't understand the video game royalties, the movie royalties. That's lifetime revenue right there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know what I mean? Lifetime revenue and lifetime opportunities.
And definitely it shows about your consistency and commitment to excellence, because obviously you've done tracks for these artists. You know, you've done tracks on, Mastermind as well with Rick Ross, Rich is Gangsta. I mean, I mean, your resume is a who's who of some of the all-time greats. I mean, you even did a 38 Spesh feature in terms of the beats. You got to tell us about that.
So, hey, hold up, 38 Spesh, man. Look, that's my dog. People don't really know how long me and him have really known each other, because I got a bunch of songs with him that's out that be various mixtapes. But 38 Spesh is actually like the first artist to hear the Ali Bomaye beat. Like,
okay, we need.
So back at the time when I was in college, I got plugged with him, and this when I was still selling beats for like $250, 300. And, I was going through beats, and I accidentally played that joint. He was like, hold up, what's that? And he offered me a stack for that, which at the time, was unheard of for me. You know what I mean? College student, $1,000 is a lot of money for a college student at the time.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, damn, for real? But I had, my soul was just telling me, nah, bro, it's bigger than that. Don't do it. So, I had to tell him, yo, I don't really want to sell it, bro. You know what I mean? And, you take a risk to, offending an artist. You never really know how an artist gonna feel about some shit like that. He was kind of, iffy sideways about it, but I gave him some other beats. Like I said, we've been solid for all these years. But, when the song actually ended up, going where it did, he was just like, yo, that's real shit, nigga. You know what I mean? So we really been solid all of these years. I've been rocking with Spesh since, 2011.
Man, and I mean, to see where Spesh is going right now with his trust movement and what he's been doing with Griselda. I mean, what has it been like to watch him from his movement do what he's been doing?
Man, I feel like Spesh is one of the most grinding motherfuckers I ever seen. Somebody who really stayed down and didn't let ego or nothing like that get in the way of what was supposed to happen, how it's supposed to work. Because, a lot of artists, to me, from the outside looking in, it's Spesh been fired for decades. You know what I mean? But, when Griselda and shit really popped off, Benny really had the spotlight for a minute, and, him and Spesh solid. So they know what's up. But, to me, Spesh just really been doing his shit his way for a long time, and it's good to see the grind pay off, because Nip say the only difference between him and a lot of other people is he ain't never quit, and a lot of people really do quit before they get there. So really seeing Spesh grind this long, and then actually really start getting that spotlight, and just blessings is pouring in. I'm really happy for him. You know what I mean? I know he deserved that shit. But
man,
he had a Maserati when I first met him. He had a gold Maserati in 2011.
I mean, look. I mean, Spesh, he been that dude. I mean, the joint he did with G-Rap, the Son of G-Rap album, because Cool G-Rap is my favorite MC of all time. And for those two to do an album together was just, it's hip-hop heaven. Shameless plug. Tell Spesh we would love to have him on the show if he'll come on, if you're still in touch with him. Tell him we would love to have him on the show.
Yeah, for sure.
But
yeah, that was a passing of the torch for me, that album right there. Because
side note, so he just dropped a track last year called Penny and Shaq Freestyle with him and Benny. That's one of the beats he got from me in 2011.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he just dropped that shit last year.
Man, shout out to Benny and, of course, the whole BSF and Tony De Niro. We had him on the show. about a little over a year ago. Great guy. Got to meet all of them when they came here to Hampton Roads, Norfolk specifically, back in 2023. Great guys. Got nothing but love for them. When you look at Spesh, when you look at Isaiah Rashad, to see Isaiah Rashad end up being what he is, what is that like to watch him?
Man, that's to me that's crazy because, like, you know, I've been around the industry for a minute. And then, you know, like nowadays, there's all of these gurus that tell you how you're supposed to become successful, or how you're supposed to get noticed, or how you're supposed to do this, and how you're supposed to do that. It's like, from my experience, what I've seen is just completely different. Like, Isaiah got signed, and he didn't even have a project out. He had like 5 or 6 songs on SoundCloud. You know what I'm saying? Like, so the first trip that I went to go play beats for Jeezy, well, not the second trip when I went to go link with Jeezy and Ryan Leslie was there. Like, the same way I had got the emails from, you know, the production company, I was getting emails from A&Rs. And it was this one A&R at Atlantic that I was speaking to named Brian Johnston. He was out in L.A. And we was just chopping it up about some of the songs I had and how he heard them and da-da-da-da, he thought this and that. I'm like, that's dope. I appreciate it. I go back to Tennessee. I pull up on Zay. Like, we in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. It's like 40 minutes south of Nashville. Man, Brian Johnston is sitting on the couch. I'm like, bro, what the fuck? Like, that's crazy. Like, what? Like, you came from L.A. to Murfreesboro? Like, bro, there ain't even no project out. Like, I don't know really how, you know what I mean, the specifics of everything go, but I know he was in a bidding war between Atlantic and Interscope because a few A&Rs got wind of some of his songs on SoundCloud. And one of them trips out to L.A., he ended up meeting Dave Free in the coffee shop line. And so, like, when he told us all of that, we was just like, oh, yeah, that's about to happen. Like, you know what I mean? His TDE shit definitely about to happen. And so him and SZA ended up being the first, you know, 2 new artists they signed back in 2012, 2013.
You know, now we got to pause on this because we got to tell our audience that this history that Metaphor is giving y'all right now, Black Metaphor is giving y'all the beginnings of all this, like with Dave Free, TDE, you know, Anthony Tifla, all this is before. I mean, Kendrick had already dropped Good Kid, Mad City in 2012. This is roughly about a couple years after he dropped Section 80. So Kendrick is still bubbling right now. You know, and in between, you know, J-Rock still drops his debut a few years earlier, Follow Me Home. You know, which you would end up working with J-Rock too, and we're going to need that story.
It's all flowing together perfect. It's all flowing. So Zay got signed, right?
Okay.
So, and then I had my shit with Jeezy. So after that summer, I still was in Tennessee, and they were still in Tennessee. But once my lease on my apartment ended, I moved back to Atlanta. And then Zay moved to L.A. with the rest of the homies. Like, all the rest of the homies moved to L.A. with Zay, and I came here because I was, you know, familiar with here, whatever. So my first trip out there, like, I got to see, you know, like, just going to L.A. for the first time. L.A., you know what I mean, beautiful place, man. Prayers out to everybody that's dealing with them fires out there right now.
Man.
My boy
prayers
Cody,
up.
prayers, man. I got homies in the hospital and all of that, man. Prayers out for all of them. But my first trip out there, you know, I'm pulling up. It's like all my college homies is just in L.A., like in the TDE house. So TDE got like this just the way they got their shit set up with their artists. So you start out, they put like their new artists in this house, or like at least at the time, you know what I mean? They had a little TDE house, and then they got like work their way out the house and work their way into getting like their own spot or something, I guess. You know what I mean? And so I pull up out there. It's like a year after Zay got signed and he had his apartment and shit. So we chilling and we like, yo, we finna go to the TDE studio because they still had a studio in Carson that's like the joint from all the YouTube videos that they had with like the green and the wood walls and shit. We went to that joint. So we just in there going through beats. I'm in there with Zay. my boy Dez, just in there chilling. And then J-Rock just walked in. And I just so happened to be playing this beat when he walked in. I did the intro to the 90059. And so he walked in and he's going crazy. He's like, yo, bro, that shit hard. And so he's like, nah, run that back, bro. I need that. He was like, bro, my mom used to play that song every day. So I'm like, okay, bet. Like, J-Rock, like, I got plenty of beats for him. He ain't want to hear nothing else. Like, that's the only beat he heard. He listened to that joint for like an hour and a half. And then we ended up just leaving the studio. Like, he just walked in while I had my laptop up playing joints. So I reconnected with him later. Like, we got some more shit on the way. We got some crazy shit on the way. But
okay,
I re-linked up with him later at like a TDE camp that they was having going on out here in Atlanta. But like that first one I did with him, man, he just walked in, and that's the only beat I got to play. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I could have played him more, but it go how it goes sometimes.
When you look at how this process goes when you're getting to meet the artist, now there are different tiers of it in terms of the journey of your being a producer. Yeah. And even with all this crazy batshitness, we look at Kanye. I have an old Source magazine from 2001. This is, when he's, working on Jay-Z's Blueprint. So Kanye is beginning to get his, he's just beginning to get his name out there. Of course, for those that really know, he was working on Infamous Syndicate's album, Changing the Game, in 1998. And he was, still, I have that on cassette. For those that have not heard that album, go get it. It's phenomenal. Shauna, from Disturbing the Peace, she, her and her homegirl, they just go off on it. And Kanye was, they talked about how back in the day, Kanye was selling his beats, I think, for like $250 back in the day. Of course, him, No ID, all of that Chicago, those Chicago guys, were still, from the 90s, were still getting it. So you're in that same class, Metaphor, because you were obviously hustling, just selling, and just trying to get it out there. What did you learn in terms of those early days of just trying to get your product out there to those that will listen and, just, try to make a buck off of it?
Man, what I learned is you got to make it make sense for you. Like, I was never just selling beats for like $20. You know what I mean? Because that shit be kind of crazy, like how people be doing that now. I feel like your time is more valuable if you do something else at that point. But like,
right.
I learned how to, just deal with artists and their expectations, how to be a business. You know what I mean? Like, growing up, I used to have various businesses. You know what I mean? So just like doing transactions with people, like you got to speak to people a certain way, just give them a certain level of respect because they, people spending hard on money with you. But at the same time, like, I always wanted to charge something that, to me, what I felt like I deserved at that time. So, like, when I was in college, minimum wage at that time was like $7 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it'd take me how many hours to make $200? So, like, to me, you know what I mean? If two people want to get beats from me this week, like, that's a great week. I just kind of, made it make sense for me. Like,
right.
It wasn't no real thing to. I never did it for free like that. I never felt.
Oh, of course.
I beat to myself. You know what I mean? Like, I never really did that. I wasn't that thirsty to really try to make songs with people. Like, my goals were always bigger. Like, I wanted to make beats to be able to get, you know what I mean, to get to the world. You know what I mean? Like, my goal's always been that. So when I was starting out, I was just like, I don't really know what made me charge what I charged people back then, but you know what I mean? Well, like, I know, it's a value that's associated with this.
Right, no, and we feel you, because the thing is this, because obviously in business, the economy of it is about, it's basically about, like you said, it's supply and demand, but it's also making sure that both parties are equitable in terms of how they are benefiting. You are getting compensated, and then the artist is getting compensated on the sound that fits their style. So, you want to make sure, like you said, you want to make sure it makes sense on both ends. Because when you're starting off, it's like with us at Off the Cuff. King started this, and he just had a vision. And the thing is, the best advice we got, our big sister, love her dearly, Kenya Ware of Kenya Ware Films. She always just told us, never have just anybody on your show. And one thing about what we love doing with the show is that we will pretty much, we have people on our show it makes sense for us to have. We have branded this show off of the independent artists, but legends like yourself are always welcome. It's all about us with our motto, no guest too big, no guest too small. But in the end, we do what is best for us. And we just try to do it in terms of what we know benefits. We run a business at the end of the day, and we want to make sure our branding is based upon the beliefs of what we have kept dear. Just like with you in terms of how you want your music to be quality and to be compensated for quality. What do artists, because you came along at a different time where you really had to get out there and grind. It was right before the internet age would hit in terms of going viral with the clips and all that. But there's a lot of young artists, rappers and producers like yourself. You as a distinguished veteran of this now, a decade plus, what would you have to say to artists about trying to get their foot in the door, how they make their approaches in business, and how to last long in this business?
Yeah, so my first thing would be, to make yourself visible. So, back when I started, it wasn't a lot of platforms, but we had, MySpace and we had SoundClick. So, I always had beats up on those, platforms.
The days of MySpace, yes, sir.
And then invest in yourself. So I used to really, spend my entry fees to get into certain beat battles, to showcase my music. Or RIP my guy Jay Hatch, man. I started doing the iStandard producer showcases in 2007. I did my first one out here. And so when I did iStandard, that's when I learned that, your network is really what's going to get you where you're going to go. So you got to, treat people with respect and, take everybody serious. Like I had a situation where I did this iStandard showcase and this A&R had hit me up afterwards. And I ain't really, like the artist that he told me A&R for, and then the outfit that he had on and all of that shit to me didn't make sense. So I ain't really take him that serious. And then later on I seen that another producer got his first major placements through that same guy. So I learned some tough lessons sometimes about, treating everybody with the same respect, like no matter who it is, because like them same people that's there are the people that you're going to see on your way up. You know what I mean? And once you get there, you know what I mean? Like, you just never know. Like, people remember faces. It's going to be the same people. And then how to really maintain it, I would say pace yourself. Like, pace yourself. You don't got to give 100% of your energy every day. Like, you got to be able to give consistent energy. You know what I mean? You're going to have days where you're going to, go hard. And then you're going to have days where you're really not going to feel like it, but you still need to execute. You know what I mean? So just pace yourself. Like, I didn't really have, crazy expectations. I have goals, but, like, every day I just try to make the best of each opportunity. So, stay on top of things. Get you a calendar. Make sure you're using your calendar. Make sure you're using your task list, because once you really start getting some traction, it's a lot of artists that want you to send emails, a lot of A&Rs. Like, you could forget a lot of these things if you're not organized. So,
that part.
Be consistent, you know what I mean, and really, really learn the craft. Just, like, study the craft more.
And what you said about patience, metaphor, is important because everybody falls in love with the hustle culture, go, 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 never stop, this, that, and the other. I'm like, niggas, we human. Niggas got to rest sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Your heart ain't made of AI, my brother.
Hell no, nigga. So it's like, even with the show, even with our show, we may take some time off here and there to just charge up, work behind the scenes, because anything in terms of being consistent means you have to have stamina. Stamina is energy that is distributed appropriately and efficiently. Because we've seen a lot of times niggas get burned out because they're trying to do too much at one time. What you said is of the utmost imperative, metaphor, because it's all about getting organized. Because like you said, when that ball really starts rolling and you get those calls, these people expect you to get back with them, and then when y'all talk about business and a time frame, a deadline, they want their shit. That's just how it goes.
That's how it goes. You gotta be ready for that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Now, in terms of the finances, because obviously you've done very well, what do artists have to understand about when that money starts coming in, how to manage it in terms of making sure that they don't get out there getting crazy trying to buy everything? Because they're going to have them times where the money's going to come in like an avalanche, and then there'll be times like it's a drought in the desert where there's no rainfall at all. We're growing that grass of green.
Yeah, you just got to really, you got to just study, finance and management. Because you can have people, tell you what to do. Like, because a lot of people, they'll get accountants or get other people to handle their money. And then, like, years down the line, they'll find out that these motherfuckers been stealing money from them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, you can learn to, like, manage money. But you can have the discipline to, like, not, like, live being, like, you don't, you know what I mean? Like, you could, it's certain, it takes discipline to really be able to manage money, which I don't always have, the greatest discipline. Like, we don't always,
it's okay. We all
you know what I mean?
We all get our splurge fast. It's okay.
But, like, you spend it because you feel like you can make it again quick.
Right.
And it's just that mentality is like, it works out sometimes it don't. You got to understand that it's going to be droughts. It's going to be times where you're going to go months without making anything. Or, you know what I mean? It's like you just got to manage and also make sure you are maximizing your opportunities. So, you know what I mean? As an artist, definitely selling merch, like finding creative ways to sell other products to people that are fans of yours. It don't just got to be music that you sell.
Yeah, and one thing about it, like you said, in terms of where there are tiers of it, because we're never here to tell nobody how to spend their money, but we've always said take care of the necessities, invest if you're a producer, invest in your equipment in terms of, and it once you get that big payoff, it depending on where your living arrangements are, just you can get yourself a nice house, you can get yourself a nice car, and what's the priority? Your car should never cost more than your house. Your watch.
Right.
Well, I can't say your watch shouldn't cost more than your car because that depends on what type of car you have. Like, you could have an old school. You could have a 71 Chevelle that's just as dope, and you could have a 100,000 Rollie. It just depends on what you like. But there are just certain things where you want to make sure that the money is placed in a place where it is an investment. A house is an investment. Investing in equipment is an investment, but you don't want to get spendthrift. In those early days of production, what did you find? Were you using the MPCs, the Casio, the SP12s? I mean, what was your equipment of choice in terms of your production architecture?
So my first big records, all of those was on Logic.
Okay.
I started on Reason when I first started making beats, and then I found out about VSTs, so I started rewiring Reason to a bunch of different programs like Cubase and all of that. Then I had that internship with Justice League, and I saw really like how Logic worked, and it was so simple. because using Reason, I used to have to use 3 different programs just to chop a sample and make a beat. Like I used to have to chop it. Well, I used to have to take the section of the song and cool edit, and then chop it and recycle, and then load it in Reason and make the beat. And so I saw Justice League doing all of that in Logic. So I'm like, oh, well, shit, I want to use that. It looked easier than what I'm doing. So when I got to Tennessee, I eventually ended up getting the Mac so that I could get Logic. And the second beat that I made on Logic ended up being Richest Gangster. And then that was 2012. So that whole summer, like I made the Sanctuary beat that summer. I made the Idols Become Rivals beat that summer. I made the Ali Bomaye beat that summer. Like that was just a crazy, crazy time.
Man. And the thing is, a lot of times, some people, the biggest misconception people have about production is that you got to have this big ass 48-track studio, all the bells and whistles. But a lot of times, that's not always the case.
Yeah, I had Logic, and then I had a 49-key Alesis, like with no knobs on it. And so that's what me and Ryan Leslie made the When Is the Wind beat on. He was playing on my keyboard, the little Alesis joint with, like not weighted or nothing. It really, like, the equipment don't really matter. It's more about the mind behind it, because like I eventually ended up using damn near everything else. So like I did Logic for like a few years. Wow. Then I got bored with that, and I switched up to Fruity Loops. My boys put me on Fruity Loops. I was using Fruity Loops for like a couple years. Then I want to say 2014, the MPC Studio came out, and like I always kept like a little MPD, but that's not really nothing. It's just a MIDI controller. But I always saw like old producers using MPCs. I always kind of wanted to see how they work. So when the MPC Studio came out, I got one of those in 2014, and then I did that for like 4 years. That kind of changed everything for me, because that little device is set up to really work just like the MPC. You could learn how to use it without looking at the computer for it. So I was doing that, man. It was a completely different feeling from actually just like having to click, drag the loop over, do all of the, doing everything from the computer versus doing it from like a piece of hardware felt different. So that's what made me pursue like other hardware. So I did the MPC Studio for like 3 years. Then after that, I got Ableton Push 2. I did that for like 2 years. Then I was on Machine for like 2 years. Then when the pandemic started, I was on OfferUp, and I seen this MPC 2500 for $400. It was like the second week of lockdown. Yeah, it was the second week of lockdown. It was March 2020. I seen the 2500 on OfferUp for $400. I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta get this. Then I saw I saw that the JJOS still update, so you could do the lazy chop 500 now. So I'm like, oh, I gotta get this. So I got that, and I spent the whole pandemic really learning that 2500. And I made 1,000 beats on that joint.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I made 1,000 beats on there in 4 years, and then just last year I ended up the Kai Force caught my interest. So I've been on Kai Force since like April of last year.
Man, I mean, but the creative mind never stops sleeping. When you look at some of the other producers in the game, Mike and Keys,
them my brothers, man. Them
man,
my dogs,
shout out to those dudes, man.
Yeah, man. Nip introduced me to them in 2014.
Rest in peace to Nip, man.
Come on, bro.
Man, Nip, we were working to get Nip on the show. Shout out to Twan Gotti. We always tell the story on the show. We did a show with Twan. There was a Friday we did a show with him. He played the clip for Nip that Saturday. Nip co-signed us, and then Sunday he was killed.
Please enter the city.
Yeah, because we were in the process of getting Nip on the show. And
he listened to the whole interview, and I remember that day, man. He was like, because Twan hit me up like about 7, 8 in the morning. He was like, bro, you need to get up and get that content out there now. Because usually we take a break, because it's a lot of what we do. when it comes to the editing, getting the content in order, promoting, all that stuff. I just get, I'm like, you know what, I'm turning my brain off, I'm going to sleep. But he kept hitting me up like, dude, come on, man, I need that content. I'm like, what do you want it for? So anyway, I went ahead, uploaded the interview. Then come to find out, he showed the Nip, and Nip was like, yo, this is dope right here. This is a dope interview. And that was going to be an opening for us to probably down the line get an interview because he's the guy that was behind Rap Status. Rap Status is one of the big platforms out there. Did that interview with Nipsey and Gilly when Nipsey was talking about colonizers trying to take away resources from shit like that. So
I
that was
right
the connection.
The type of dude Nip was, he definitely was gonna do that interview. If he said he was gonna do it, he was gonna do it for sure.
Yeah. And I think the thing about Nip that was so, I think Nip's life resonated so much because we were screaming Nip on the show years before everybody really knew who he was like that. I mean, I knew about Nip going back to 2003, and I think the thing about Nip that was so why everybody loved him so much, was that Nip was the neighborhood rapper that made it big because there's everybody in every hood has that independent artist who's trying to get on, and Nip was the culmination of hard work, talent, having some people behind you that really helped along the way. Because he had a lot of people who were in his corner who really helped push him as well. But ultimately, at the end, he made it happen.
Yeah.
And he's a testament to perseverance of what it means to get out there on your grind and get it.
And he also studied the game. Like, he understands that for artists to be at their highest level, they need, producers. And when he got with Mike and Keys, man, because I've been a fan of Nip since, like, 2008, when he did that Killers Drake. And he was on some French Montana features, too, so I kept hearing him. And then Justice League had a session with him when I was interning, actually. So that was
oh, wow.
Cool. Yeah, that session was wild, I ain't gonna lie. So this was like the craziest session that we had. Usually, artists pull up, they'll go through the beat, they'll start laying some ideas down, whatever, like they'll make a song. Like, nah, Nip, he pulled up, his eyes was like red as fuck. He sat there, you know what I'm saying? He sat there.
We already knew what time it was.
The manager was playing beats, you know what I'm saying? He was like, I fuck with that one, I don't like that one, but I fuck with that one. And so, like, then they got done playing beats, and they was like, all right, shit. I'm thinking, he finna go in the booth. This motherfucker said, all right, man, shit, I'm going to take these home. I'm going to go right to him. I'm going to just slide. Like, he was there for 15 minutes. Like, that's the first time I ever seen an artist pop in on Justice League for 15 minutes. Like, that was crazy. You know what I mean? But, like, now, later on, looking back on it, like, I thought that, at the time, I thought maybe he didn't like them beats. Like, I thought he wasn't really fucking with them. Like, he don't like what's going on. But, like, nah, some artists really need to go take their time and write. Like, some artists, my artist, King L.E.A.G.U.E, is like that. Like, he's getting better with doing stuff on the spot, but his best music, he really just take it and write to it as he living his life. You know what I mean? So, it really kind of made sense later, the type of artist he was. Like, some people, everybody work different. You know what I mean? That's one of the things I learned in that industry, too. Like, or in that internship, was just like everybody work different. Like Mike Posner, we had a session with Mike Posner. He put everybody out and said he going to record himself.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, cool. We went and got lunch. Like, he didn't even want to the building. You know what I'm saying? Like, he put us out the studio. Like what the fuck? Like, okay, cool.
But so and it's crazy because, Metaphor, we're talking about studios and work and how people work. We've been trying to get them on the show. We're going to get them. Shout out to Rap Rats. Those guys are hilarious. Check out their IG page if you have not heard them. They are hilarious. I'll DM you some of their videos. But one video, seeing we're on this subject about how people work, they also did a great video about studio etiquette. And a lot of artists, because they're comedians, but they're also conscious as well. And people got to understand, studio etiquette is a real thing.
It's a real thing, and it ain't always your time. It's not. You gotta wait. Like you gotta sit back sometimes. You know what I mean? It's not always the opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, like certain studio etiquette is really like that's really a thing. Like I done seen plenty of people get put out of sessions. Like I done seen plenty of people get put out of sessions. I done been put out of sessions because somebody I was with was taking pictures and I ain't even know it. I'm like, damn, I got put out of session with Bun B.
Oh, whoa, man, look. And we're laughing because I'm thinking about the making of the band on Chappelle's show where he said, I got to shut the studio down. Shout out to Dave Chappelle, man, for that Puffy impression, man. That was hilarious. But on the real, he was spitting facts.
Facts.
And what people have to understand, and in all seriousness, the studio session is a very real, it's a very intimate, it is a very zen kind of place.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes it ain't so much zen because the same way you can have candles and Aquafina water, you can have butt naked bitches and a whole bunch of endo smoke. Whatever.
That's the new slogan. What goes on in the studio stays in the studio.
Yo, what's so crazy? I never seen none of that wild shit going on in the studio, neither. Like, you know what I'm saying? I've never seen that.
But for the most part,
sessions I be at.
Right. But for the most part, when it's come, the studio time is especially when it's laying down for an album, it's serious work. And people, when they're locked in, It's go time. Shout out to guys we know, studio producer, engineer extraordinaire, Trop Da Vinci, works with Ross, great guy, good friend of ours. It's a very, very painstaking, tedious, and serious process, and you don't want distractions. And like you said, Metaphor, you got to make sure that everybody's on the same page of understanding because artists have different ways that they want to work.
Yeah.
And, to respect that genius, to grow the genius, to make the genius come into full bloom, you got to make sure that they have room to grow. And part of it is watering them how they need to be watered to flourish. I know that's I know that conversation you and your partner had about him taking unsolicited pictures. I can only imagine how that conversation went.
Man.
Somewhere between what the fuck you doing and look, nigga, see what you done did.
Yeah, that shit wild, bro. Like, I ain't know about none of that shit. It was just like, damn, like, you know what I mean? But, you know what I mean? That's still my dog, though, regardless. Like, you know what I mean? We've been
right.
music bros for a minute, like, and when it happened, it's just like, it's fucked up. You know how it came out, like, somebody putting somebody's business out like that. But, like, at the same time, like, the pretense of me and his relationship, like, we always been homies and we always been, like, on some music shit. Like, we ain't never really went out together. We ain't really, you know what I mean? Like, did none of that. And so, I don't know, that shit was just crazy. Like, I would have never guessed that because, like, to me, like, he was having, like, he had a baby for each project he had. So, like, I was just like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? But it's still my dog, you feel me?
Understood. Like I said, whatever that conversation was, that's between y'all. But that's just something, people have to understand, and you just got to watch the situation. You just got to gauge it and kind of see where the vibe is, and you just flow with it. So in terms of the the name itself, it just speaks a level of mystique, complexity, and just originality. How did you come up with the name?
What, Black Metaphor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I used to write poetry and shit when I was younger, and so when I at first my name was just some regular BK the producer, you know, like everybody the producer, whoever. But you know, at a certain point, I knew that's not how I wanted to be represented. You know what I mean? For a long period of time, so I kind of made my name my goal. You know what I mean? So I had like a wall that I used to cut out pictures and put of, like, you know, artists or producers and shit right in front of my computer. And so I was like, man, I want my picture to be up there with them. Like, I want to be as great as all of these people that's on my wall. So that's where, you know, the metaphor part came from. And then Black kind of made it sound, you know, a little mysterious, like, you know, like a character type shit.
Right.
And also the metaphor part is like, musically, I want to be diverse. Like, I don't want to be put in a box. I want to be able to do whatever, you know, type of music, whatever genre, like, as good as anybody else that does it. And so that's, you know, that's another, you know, meaning of the metaphor part.
That's dope, man. When you look at the success that you've had, Metaphor, in terms of being a platinum certified producer many times over, your cup has runneth over with success. You drank from the fountain of prosperity. You know, you have dined on an abundance of the success. Who have you not worked with that you want to work with?
As far as records coming out, or like just working with, because it's some people that work with that ain't had nothing come out with that's pretty, like, but yeah, like I worked with Hope before, but I ain't had nothing come out with him. Like, I worked on Magna Carta, or like Cole, like I would say J. Cole, you know what I'm saying? But I work with him at a few of the Dreamville camps, you know what I mean? I just haven't had nothing come out yet. Definitely Cole, though, Nas, Kendrick. I really want to work with Jay Electronica. I feel like me and him could really have, like, a dope ass. Like, we'll go crazy for real. Like, man, Jay Elect is one of those.
Niggas just need to stop being so damn mysterious, nigga. Just come out and do some niggas just come out and do some fucking music, man. Like, damn. I mean, we finally got that damn album some years ago, and it's like, man, we're like,
I still want to get with Wayne, too. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's only right me and Wayne do something after Idol become rivals. Like, it only makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, but when you look at the game today, and a lot of the artists coming in, because obviously it's different from even a little over a decade ago from when you first came in. What are you seeing in terms of how artists are making their entry, how it's sounding, and do you feel that there is an oversaturation where the classics are being sacrificed in place of simply having an abundance? Give us your feeling on the musical climate right now today.
I feel like, man, it's so complicated, man. Like, it's a lot of new artists coming out. Like, the game is in a way better place right now than it was. Like the blog era kind of laid the foundation, but it's a lot more good music out now. And so I feel like the saturation only come in, like, certain lanes. So, like, club music, like, it's definitely a saturation of, like, club music. Like, everybody making those songs. A lot of people feel like, you know, club songs got to have certain elements. So all of them songs are going to sound similar depending on, you know, the year. So that kind of could make you feel like it's saturated, but I feel like it's diverse. Like, I feel like it's a lot of different types of music that might not necessarily be in the mainstream. But, I mean, that's kind of how the game always been. It's like you start out on a low level, like as an independent artist, you know what I mean? You can catch your niche. You just got to be consistent. Like, I feel like a lot of the artists that's dope, that's not big yet, they not consistent. You at least got to drop every year.
Yeah.
And I'm done, man. You can't drop like every 2 to 3 years like back in the day. You gotta be more consistent with the market.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Jay-Z came to his success how he did. He was dropping every year. Like, Drake dropped every year. If you go look at Drake's discography since 2006, it's only been 2 years that he didn't drop a project. He's dropped every year since 2006. It's like, I don't understand how people don't see that. Like, you got to be consistent. You know what I mean? Like, that's like the bare minimum, especially coming up, at least establish some type of consistency. Because, like, people are fans. It's like a sport. It's like hoops. Like, if you're a fan of KD, like, you want to see him hoop every year. Like, people are fans of you as an artist. Like, it's not nothing that you particularly did to, like, get them to like you. Like, they just a fan of your talent and the type of songs you make. So just continue to do that.
Yeah. But and it's crazy because, like you said, it's all about coming out and dropping. But we've also seen a situation where the music has taken a back seat to antics, where people are just content to get out there and with a lot of, foolishness to brand themselves. You as a businessman, as an artist, because you are a producer that creates audio art, what do you feel about the climate of how people are striving to gain celebrity in this time and day?
I mean, I think a lot of people some people doing the most. It's still a lot of artists that's going about it genuine ways and just focusing on the good music. Maybe, having creative ideas outside of just a music video to, like, help promote and brand. Like, my artist King L.E.A.G.U.E, we just dropped our second tape, Too Soulful, and right now we selling them, physical only on this device that, like, he been selling them for $100. Proud to pay. Then, getting merch, like he got merch packages. Or like I got another homie, King J, like they've always found, super creative ways to market themselves. You know what I mean? Did I answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's just something where people have to understand at the end of the day. People, when you're getting out there, people want to, from where we've seen things, we came up in a generation where it was really about you having real talent that showed that you were more, how do I say this? You really showed that you wanted to have a deeper depth of how people understood you in terms of what you want to put out there. Your art is an expression of you, but you as a person are going to be the brand behind it. And you want to make sure that statement that you make behind yourself is one that resonates with respect, dignity, and most important, reverence.
Yeah.
And we're seeing where
can't just be out here wilding, like, because that's how people gonna remember you. They're not gonna respect you. Some people just wasn't. I guess they wasn't raised a certain way with certain morals and shit like that, and can't understand that. Like, you gotta maintain your respect and your dignity. Like, at the end of the day, like, or it ain't worth it.
When you look at the game in terms of you being a producer, that means you've also dealt with artists who had a lot going on in terms of conflicts they've had with others. What would you tell artists today about when they have issues with people and how to kind of stay away from the drama?
I mean, I feel like just read the room. You know what I mean? Like, do business, and then, keep the personal separate. Like, it's plenty of artists that just, do business with other artists and don't necessarily feel the need to go do, all this other stuff, or go to parties and go to events. Like, you could just do your business and, like, have your own life outside of that. You don't have to necessarily get involved in everything that somebody's doing. in order to get that opportunity.
Yeah, man. But you know, we about to possibly wrap this up in a couple, man, because you know we got to take care of some things. I know you got some more joints you got to cook up in the lab. You care to give us some shout outs out there?
Man, come on. First off, shout out God, man. You know what I mean? Shout out my mom, my dad, my sister. You know what I mean? Shout out all my homies that you know, been there and supported me all these years. You know what I mean? Everybody know who they are. That's a long list. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna forget about everybody, man. But you know what I mean? Shout out to y'all for having me. You know what I mean? I appreciate that. You know what I mean? I look forward to many more years of continuing to, you know, create music that the world can enjoy.
Man, look, Metaphor, we appreciate you so much coming on, man. Like I said, it was a long time coming, but we made it happen. You know, you're welcome back anytime. And any artists that you're working with, man, you know, send them our way. We would love to have them on.
All right, cool. I got you. Appreciate it, man.
Definitely. And, of course, you know, we got to shout out our man Bezo from Brandon Turner from Bezo Entertainment. You know, you were on his show some time back. You know, he had nothing but great things to say about you.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. So from that side of it, you know.
From Steady in Hip Hop?
Yeah, thank God for hip hop.
Yeah,
Brandon.
Yeah, man. Yeah, oh my gosh, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good friend of ours, man. So from that end of it, you know, one thing about
out of here, we thank you once again for joining us. It was a long time in the making, but we made it happen.
Hey, man, I appreciate y'all for having me again. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so out of here. Thank y'all once again for tuning in. This episode will be on all streaming platforms as well as the YouTube channel, so be on the lookout for that. Be sure to follow Black Metaphor on all social media handles.
Yep, it's spelled regular, standard English.
And we up out of here.
Definitely, man. Till next time. All right, peace, one.